1. My prior place was night audit at a lodge deep in the woods that was ridiculously and prohibitively expensive. So tonight at the new place was my first encounter with the booking you've all met. The myth, the legend. First name, no last name ID. Except it got weird at the end. Reservation hits, out of state, over a week. Payment says cash on arrival, no card for incidentals. Okay. We call and confirm. Okie dokie, all cash, sure, whatever. We still take it because the area has a lot of traveling workers. We are primarily for work, not for tourism. We're on the factory and industries side of town, and our prices and bookings often reflect that. We get the occasional stray road trippers hitting their limit, but it's mostly just blue-collar folks and truckers hanging out. Reservation arrives, fistful of cash, still no deposit for incidentals. I'm not keen on waiving that for this long of a stay and on cash, but I can page the owner and maybe come up with something we can do. At least I'll grab the ID real quick for the scanner, just in case this starts to go south. Ask for ID, and I can already smell it's going so far south, it's breaking out the corn cobs for crawfish boil. He doesn't have ID, hands me a bus pass from another state. Fantastic. Thank you for your utilization of public transit. It's not an ID, though. Next up is a printout of a driver's license that looks like a pack of wild dogs got a hold of it. Can't even make out the info or see the picture. Nope. Try again. No ID, no room. Well, I booked through a special Ruby Sapphire Leaf Green and have an account. Amazing. It's not legal identification. Welsh motel number in the other state let me check in without an ID. Great. We are a chain hotel in this state. I also do not believe you, but I'm too polite to say that. I really do need an ID, though. Are you going to pay for my travel back to the other state? Nope. I'm watching a Greyhound pull into the station next door as we speak. Your cash is more than enough to hop on that bad boy back to literally just one state over. Things are better there anyway. Good luck, sir. I thought it was over. My desk cleaners, it was not over. Halfway to storming out, he does the turn, and I know something wild was about to flow forth from his vocal cords. He stands on the vestibule like he's screaming from the angry box and yells, "Do the Mexicans have to show ID? Do you take green cards from illegals, huh?" I refused to engage, waved him off and said goodbye, but in the middle of writing down why his reservation was cancelled, that reservation turned into a swift ban from the property. My night did not get easier from there, with an even bigger incident later on, but at least everyone else except those two was very nice. And only one guest in the entire hotel came up to me to ask for anything at all. 2 towels, just to get my steps in. Thank you to that man. Today was so wild I didn't even blink when a guy pulled down one of my stacked lobby chairs to microwave and eat fried chicken over my freshly mopped floor. I just shrugged. Chicken skins everywhere at 10 p.m. I have truly ascended. 2. Lovely chaotic Saturday at the front desk. The property I work at is big, 298 rooms, and little old me is working a double at the desk all by myself. How lucky. This happened about 12 hours into my shift. A guest comes in to check in, but the reservation is under her husband's name. Who else hates this, by the way? We get a lot of sports teams around this time of year, and the amount of husbands that'll just make the reservation for their wife under their name. Don't bother to call or add any names, just expect us to magically know you meant to make this for your spouse. But this isn't one of those situations. The husband was literally just parking the car. He was literally on property. So I informed the guest that is under her spouse's name, and we just have to wait for him to finish parking the car so we can continue with the check-in process. No biggie, I would think, but apparently this was a personal attack. That I would not check someone into a reservation that their name wasn't on? I come here once a year and you guys always act like you don't know me. This is ridiculous. This happens every single time we check in here. I'm not kidding, she literally said this word for word. If this happens every single time you check in, once a year by the way, You'd think you'd know what the policy is and not consistently try to break it. Like, girl, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing, expecting a different result. The call is coming from inside the house. But I remained friendly, even though I had to really try not to laugh at her, saying that because WTF, and she just glares at me until her husband got to the lobby, refusing to move for the guest actually ready to check in, because of course not, you don't want to lose your space behind the one other person you decided to inconvenience with your presence today. Totaling 2 in this interaction. So, honorable mentions for today: a lady that insisted her friend can use his ID for her reservation because she doesn't have one. No, girl. We made her a new reservation under his name. The guest who booked a king and claimed everyone promised him a mythical 2-queen adjoining room. We've been sold out of 2 queens for a month. Yelled at me for about 30 minutes before I just cancelled their reservation and told them to kick rocks. Nicely. Hellfreezer's note: I hope they stub their toe while kicking rocks. 3. A guest checked in on Sunday. I don't know if they've ever stayed at a hotel before. They're in the state for a job training, I believe, and their company authorized their card for a room plus tax only. Require guest credit card for incidentals. He comes in, and when I ask for the card, he takes an offended, serious, calm tone, if you can imagine. The job is paying for this room. I'm not paying for any of this. I explained the nature of the incidentals, how it's an authorization that would be returned after checkout. He was still hesitant. When I told him it wouldn't be charged, it seemed like it clicked, and he put the card down and it went through. All seems normal. There were a lot of check-ins that night and everything else went perfectly smoothly. I work at this place part-time, so 2 days later I come in, and at the end of the second shift, he waits in line. He's behind a construction group, checking in a few rooms who didn't have a credit card authorization filled out for their group in advance. I'm making their keys while they call their employer at 11 p.m. because I want to say I did due diligence to get approval. They have no money to put down for the longer stay. And I get a call from a very kind guest that remembers my name from my shift on Sunday. I place him on hold, and the night auditor walks in the door, a bit early, and goes to the back. The pressure is on a little bit at this point. It was an 8 total arrival shift, and 3 were at the desk that moment, so I was taken a bit by surprise, but it's still good. For context, my manager lets me bring in my dog to work when there aren't many arrivals. She's very good, except she knows when the shift is up, and when my replacement comes in, she can be antsy if I'm not with her. Not problematic, but if it's an extended time, she'll whimper for me. Oh. I decided I recognized the company from other stays. They've had similar issues repeatedly, but the card was always right, and their employer is annoying, so I just checked them in. During this time, I answered the call from the room, and he wants trash bags and towels. Got it. They all manage to dip out of the line to get snacks, cut back in, and pay with cash before the interaction ends. The incidentals man. He goes into it right away that I told him he wouldn't be charged anything to his card. The incidentals put him in negative. I should have been clear about the charges. Now he's stranded here with no money for even a $15 pizza from Domino's. Doesn't give me an opportunity to speak for a good amount of time, but when I do, I am very sympathetic to the situation, having been broke myself before. I apologized for the miscommunication, and explained that the amount he sees is an authorization, a hold, which he'd see when he checks out. He says, no. Due to my miscommunication, he is out of money and basically destitute. He says it to him, I lied about the charges on his card. My dog is stressed, whimpering occasionally, which is slightly audible from the desk. I've been here for 10 minutes over my shift end time trying to wrap up my interactions with people. The next window of opportunity, I start to lightly play defense and explain the difference between an authorization and a charge, and that it was explained at check-in, but he wouldn't have it. Said he needs to speak with the manager, and I apologize sincerely. I think I answered when my manager would be in, and he left. I deliver the towels and then have to write all this down before I can leave. Writing this, I realize I forgot to write a note about the credit card authorization from way earlier, which I feel compelled to call and let the auditor know about. I have guilt about this situation. I know incidentals are standard procedure, and that it was communicated to him by his company. But I still feel in the wrong. Hellfreezer's note, you are not in the wrong for someone else's stupidity and inability to plan for a situation that they had been warned about ahead of time. And even if he hadn't been warned about it ahead of time, you did explain how things worked to him when he arrived. His stupidity is not your problem. 4. So a few years back, in the distant year of 2015, I was the manager of a decent-sized, privately owned motel. The owner was an older guy who had seen plenty of jackasses over the years, so he never did that customer is always right crap, and encouraged me to do the same. It is the middle of summer. We have a bunch of construction workers in the area, because they're installing wind turbines. Our rooms are almost completely booked out, with one lonely vacancy awaiting our soon-to-be antagonists. I get off duty at 11 p.m., but we don't have a night clerk, it's just me in the small apartment behind the desk. We had a doorbell hooked up outside the lobby, and if people rang it, it would wake me up. Cue the bell going off at around 1 a.m., so I stumble out of bed and go see what's happening. There are 3 people standing outside. One guy looked like he was in his mid-40s or early 50s, his wife same age bracket, and I presume the mother-in-law 60 or 70 or so. I let them in, and the guy immediately says, "Your vacancy sign is lit. Tell me you have a room." I told him we had exactly 1 room available, but great, we'll take it. "That's fine, sir, but I do need to warn you the air conditioning has been on the fritz in that block of rooms for a week." "That's fine. We just need the beds. We've been looking for like 3 hours." I shrugged my shoulders, took their info, and handed over the key. Fast forward to the next morning. I get our continental breakfast set up. It's continental. Really just some dollar pastries and stale cereal. And opened up the lobby. Around 9 or so, they come in, and the wife walks up to the desk as her husband and mother start loading up on muffins and danishes. For optimal enjoyment, please know that my tone throughout this entire conversation was the overly pleasant, vaguely condescending customer service voice you may have heard when someone is able to counter bull with impunity. "Hi, the air conditioner wasn't working in our room last night." "Yes, ma'am, it's been on the fritz for a week." "Well, nobody told us when we checked in. I want a refund." "Actually, I did, last night, when I checked you in. You were very clear that you didn't care and just wanted the room." She got all huffy and walked away, gathering her own pastries and sitting with her family. I busied myself with getting the housekeeping schedule worked up, and the husband walked up next. "Hey, you said we can't get a refund?" "Yes, sir. I was very upfront about the AC. You said you didn't care." "Well, I noticed your outlets aren't up to code in those rooms. It would put down that whole block if I called it in." "Well, no. Actually, they are up to code. We had an electrician out here last month." He grumbled and walked away, sending in the final wave of reinforcements. Mother-in-law walks up to the desk, firing off words that have probably worked so well in the past.
"I want to speak to the manager."
"Yes, ma'am, how can I help you?"
"No, I want the manager."
"Yes, that's me. My name is on the business cards."
"No, you're too young to be the manager."
"Well, thank you for the compliment, ma'am. How can I help you?"
"I want a refund. We couldn't sleep a wink, it was so hot in there."
"I already explained you were informed beforehand of the AC issue and said you didn't care."
"Well, you should have offered us a fan then."
I pointed to a nifty little sign I had printed up after day 3 with "No AC, fans available on request. First come, first served." She stuttered and harumphed a bit and fired out round 2.
"I demand to speak to the owner."
"Unfortunately, ma'am, he isn't on the premises at the moment, but I can take a message for you."
"Well, give me his phone number then."
Dumbass. "The owner has told me not to hand out his number. Sorry about that. He usually comes in at least once or twice a day, though."
That's fine. We'll wait till he's here then.
I gave her my absolute most cherubic smile I could imagine. Of course. But if you haven't checked out by 11, I will need to charge you for another night. The husband pipes up again.
Well, what if I don't pay for another night?
That's fine, sir. We have the card you used to pay for last night on file. Mother-in-law seemed to deflate a bit and went back to the table. They finished their breakfast in peace and checked out basically right after. I sat on that victory for weeks. I've got a few other stories that were more weird than anything else, but this was my only interaction with a Karen, surprisingly. 5. This story takes place on a cold evening at the end of January 2025. I come in on a Saturday night to get my shift started, and as I'm walking in, I can see a woman surrounded by a group of older men, clearly intoxicated already. I do the usual, take over the cash register, check credit card payments, and generally cleaning the mess my late shift colleagues weren't able to clean, when I can already hear her calling me over. I come over, and it's a decently beautiful woman, my age, so I was pleasantly surprised. She orders a gin and tonic, and the guys around her just some beers. I get everything on the counter and stay there for a bit, cleaning the bar as well. As it's always the case, I start to talk with the guests. Out of nowhere, she suddenly says that she wishes for the alt-right party in my country to win because you can't say anything anymore. Oh, honey. Me, being the loudmouth I am, said that's such a stupid argument, and she went off the rails. Could really tell that the booze was speaking more than her, saying how could I insult her like that. She goes to have a smoke and comes back like 10 minutes later, profusely apologizing for being so rude. She then tried to convince me that she isn't racist, yeah right, and I look at her the wrong way. I just told her we are both entitled to our opinions and we can agree to disagree. She wasn't having it and kept arguing. After around 15 minutes of her trying to convince me, I told her I'm going to have a smoke. She follows me and starts to get touchy. I didn't like it. I pushed her back lightly, but she came right back on and grabbed between my legs. Ugh. Right on the spot. Shock ran through my body since I've never experienced something like that. I felt weak and vulnerable. I am not even a particularly attractive person, so it hit me even more unexpected. My first instinct was to shove her away as strong as possible, but I couldn't do that. I am an almost 1.90 meter man, full beard, and she was like 1.65. At one point, she was asking what I thought of her body, and I just told her I'm not going to comment on that. But she then proceeded to pull her pants down, her blouse up, and show her entire body, only covered by see-through underwear. When I left, finished up my shift, she was still there getting breakfast. Me showing my colleagues the person who put me through one of, if not the most uncomfortable nights I've experienced. I love this job, but goddamn, some people make it hard. Hellfreezer's note. You might want to have a word with your employers about putting that particular person on a DNR list. I mean, SA is SA anyway you look at it. And you certainly are not getting paid anywhere near enough to put up with that kind of nonsense at work. Now, I see from comments on Reddit and responses you made that your boss wasn't much help. That's fine, just go over his head to HR. It really doesn't need to be addressed. And that attitude really doesn't make your boss look very good regarding what he might consider acceptable boundaries. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, that's Confessions of a Hotel Worker for those who are new, 173. And big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. I haven't quite given up on getting to 100,000, although those numbers seem to be going backwards more than they go forward, but well, we'll keep plugging away and see what we can do. Can but try and do our best. Okay. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do that by signing up for my Patreon page. $1 a month would be very helpful. More if you would like is also helpful. You get all the videos at once on a Monday as a thank you for your support. There's also a link in the description to my merchandise store on Teespring. Okay, that's everything for now, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is the weirdest thing you found in your garden while cleaning up? I say that because I was doing the front lawn today. I'd left the first cut a little bit later than usual, but it's done now, so it's a lot neater. And as I was tidying up, I'd seen it before, but I found it and threw it away today. A small styrofoam headstone, like painted, had R.I.P. written on it in purple lettering. I assume it must have been from a Halloween display somebody had or something, and a windy day somehow blew it into my garden. Either that or it's an omen, and the Reaper's just around the corner. I mean, I hope not. You go away, Mr. Reaper, I've got stuff to do. Too busy. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Coahw192, and it was about camera doorbells, like Ring and such. Other brands are available, #notspawn. Although I totally would. Today's answer comes from Emerald Angel. We have a Ring, and so far, it's been pretty useful. The only con is I have to charge mine, because my house doesn't have a wire into the house. Thank you very much for your answer, Emerald Angel. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.